the year 2289, space was no longer a mystery. Humans had crossed the stars, built cities among the nebulae, and discovered hundreds of new races. Yet, even after all the progress, something about humanity still made other species uneasy. They said humans were unpredictable, too emotional, too stubborn, too brave for their own good. Maybe that was true. Maybe that was why Draven Cole was alive when so many others were not. Draven was a human envoy assigned to the neutral planet Virelion, a place of glass towers, floating gardens, and silver skies. It was home to the Xylan, a powerful alien race who fed not on food but on energy, life force itself. They claimed to never harm without consent, but most humans still kept their distance. The Xylan were graceful and calm, their voices soft like the wind, yet their eyes glowed faintly red whenever they were hungry. Draven didn't fear them. He respected them, but he never showed weakness. He was sent as part of a peace delegation after a border skirmish between humans and Xylan patrols. The mission was supposed to last 2 weeks, but for Draven, everything changed on the first night. She appeared at the welcome reception, tall, silver-skinned, with dark crimson eyes that shimmered under the lights. Her name was Saris. She moved through the crowd like smoke, silent but noticed by everyone. When her gaze met Draven's, it lingered too long. He didn't look away. Later that evening, while the delegates discussed trade routes and treaties, Draven found himself alone on the balcony, watching the twin moons rise over the horizon. The city below pulsed with faint blue light. He sensed someone behind him before he heard the voice. "You shouldn't stare at our moons that long," she said. "They say they whisper secrets if you listen too closely." Draven turned. It was Saris. Her tone was calm, but her expression was curious. "I like secrets," he said with a grin. "Humans always do," she replied. "You crave what you shouldn't touch," he shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe we just don't like being told what not to touch." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You're bold for a species still learning how to survive beyond its own sun. Bold or stupid. Depends who you ask." Her lips curved faintly. "Both, perhaps." There was silence for a while, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. The stars above reflected in her metallic skin. She looked more like a dream than a person. Then, almost too casually, she said, "Do you know what I am, human?" Draven nodded. "You're Xylan. You feed on life energy. You can drain someone until they're nothing but an empty shell." Her gaze sharpened. "Then you know what I could do to you if you get too close." He didn't move away. Instead, he took one small step forward. "You wouldn't I?" she said softly. Her voice was both threat and music. "Touch me again and I'll drain your blood." Draven smiled, slow, fearless. "Then I'll take that risk," and he reached out, his fingers brushed her arm. It was cold at first, smooth like glass, alive with faint vibrations. A spark shot up his hand like static, but deeper. It wasn't pain. It was connection. Saris froze. Her eyes widened as though she hadn't expected him to actually do it. "You fool," she whispered. "Maybe," Draven said quietly. "But you didn't stop me." Her breath caught. The energy around them shifted, invisible currents dancing between their bodies. She stepped back suddenly, breaking the touch. For a brief second, her red eyes flared bright, and he felt something pull at him, like his heartbeat stuttered, like something inside him reached toward her. But it ended just as fast. Saris turned away, hiding her face. "You shouldn't be here. I was invited." "I didn't mean the planet," she said sharply. "I meant here, with me." Draven leaned against the balcony rail, still calm. "Then why are you still talking to me?" That question seemed to unsettle her more than anything else. She walked away without answering, disappearing into the shimmering lights of the hall. The next few days were strange. Saris avoided him during meetings, but always seemed aware of where he was. Draven noticed the way her eyes would flick toward him whenever someone mentioned humans. There was something in her gaze he couldn't read. Curiosity, anger, or something deeper. Rumors began spreading among the delegates. Some said a Xylan council member had shown unusual interest in the human envoy. Others whispered that the human had challenged one of their kind with a forbidden touch. In Xylan culture, physical contact was intimate, sacred. Touching without permission was seen as reckless or disrespectful. But Draven didn't regret it. He felt something in that brief touch, a spark of truth, like he'd glimpsed the soul behind the perfect control she always wore. On the 5th night, he found her again. This time she was waiting. The two moons hung low, the air humming faintly with the energy fields that powered the city. She stood by the edge of a crystal pond, her reflection rippling like silver fire. "You don't know what you're doing," she said as he approached. "Probably not," he admitted, "but I'd like to find out." Her eyes softened slightly. "Humans are strange. You seek danger and call it discovery. You chase death and call it courage. Maybe, but we're the only ones still exploring. Maybe that's why we survive." She looked down at the water. "You're not afraid of me." "I've seen worse," he said with a grin. "I once wrestled a plasma eel on Titan Station." She didn't smile, but her tone shifted. "You think courage will protect you? My kind can end you with a thought." "Then do it," he said quietly. Sirius froze. The challenge hung in the air like lightning before a storm. "Why?" she whispered. "Because if you wanted to hurt me, you would have done it already." For the first time, she looked unsure. She reached out slowly, her hand hovering near his chest. He didn't flinch. Her fingers touched the fabric of his jacket, and he felt a wave of cold energy surge through him. The world tilted for a second, but he stayed firm. Her hand trembled slightly before pulling away. "You're impossible," she said softly. "Humans usually are." She looked at him, truly looked, and for a moment the tension between them wasn't fear, it was understanding. Two beings from different worlds, neither fully trusting, yet drawn to something they didn't understand. As he walked back toward the hall, Saris's voice followed him. "You should leave this planet soon, Dravencole. Before something happens you can't undo." He paused and turned slightly. "You mean before I touch you again?" Her expression didn't change, but her voice dropped to a whisper. "Exactly," he smiled faintly. "Then I guess I'll have to be careful." But deep inside, both of them knew he wouldn't be. That night, as the human delegation prepared for the final stage of negotiations, Draven couldn't shake the memory of that strange pull between them. The feeling that her touch had awakened something ancient and electric inside him. And far across the glowing city, Sarah stood alone beneath the twin moons, staring at her reflection in the water. She touched her arm where his hand had been, and for the first time in centuries she felt warmth. She whispered to the night, almost to herself, "What have you done, human?" But the stars, bright and silent, offered no answer. Dravencole didn't sleep that night. He sat near the glass window of his quarters, watching the twin moons sink behind the glowing towers of Virelion. The city was quiet at night, too quiet for his human mind. He missed the hum of old engines, the smell of steel and oil, the sound of people laughing in crowded stations. Here everything was perfect, silent, controlled. It was beautiful, yes, but it felt like a cage made of light. He couldn't stop thinking about Saris. Her warning echoed in his head, soft but firm. Before something happens, you can't undo. He didn't understand what she meant, but he knew she was afraid not of him but of herself. That idea fascinated him. The next morning, the delegation met again in the Hall of Harmony. It was a vast chamber made of shining crystal, where every voice echoed like music. The human representatives sat on one side, the Xylan Council on the other. Saris was there too, sitting a few seats higher, her expression calm and unreadable. The meeting began with polite greetings and long discussions about borders, trade, and shared research rights. Draven listened, but his attention kept drifting towards Saris. Every time he looked at her, she seemed to sense it, her red eyes flickering toward him for just a second before returning to her notes. When the session ended, most delegates went to rest, but Draven stayed behind, pretending to review documents. He knew she'd come to speak to him, and she did. She approached silently, her footsteps soft on the crystal floor. "You enjoy making trouble, don't you?" she said quietly. He looked up, smiling. "Only when it leads to something interesting." "This isn't a game, Dravencole. What happened last night was dangerous. You could have died. I'm still here," he said calmly, "and I don't regret it." Her eyes darkened. "You should." Draven stood up and stepped closer. "You didn't drain me. Why?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Because something stopped me. I touched you, and for a moment I felt your energy. But it didn't burn like others. It connected. Your life force didn't fight mine. It adapted." He frowned slightly. "Meaning?" She looked away. "Meaning I don't know. But the council will find out soon enough. They're already curious about you." "I can handle curiosity," Draven said. "This isn't human curiosity," she warned. "They study, they test. And if they think you're a threat, they remove you." Draven crossed his arms. Then maybe they'll have to go through me first. Saris blinked, almost amused. Always brave. Always foolish, he smiled again. It's a human thing. For a moment they stood there, neither speaking. The faint hum of the building surrounded them, alive with soft energy. Finally, Saris turned to leave. If you want to survive, stay away from me. But Draven didn't listen. That evening he followed her trail through the city. Varelion at night was different, less polished, more alive. Hidden among the shining towers were narrow streets filled with strange light and silent figures. He moved carefully, wearing a plain black cloak to blend in. He knew he was breaking protocol, but curiosity was stronger than rules. He found her near the outskirts, standing before a massive structure that glowed faintly blue. It looked like a temple or a power core. Energy pulsed from its center, filling the air with a low hum. "You shouldn't be here," Saris said without turning. "You say that a lot," Draven replied. "Maybe you should start asking why I keep coming back." She faced him slowly. "Because you don't know fear." "Wrong," he said softly. "I just don't let fear control me." Something flickered in her eyes, respect, maybe even admiration. "Humans, you're all like this. Always chasing danger?" "Not all," he said with a faint smile. "Just the ones worth remembering." She stepped closer. The air between them crackled faintly with energy. "Why do you care so much? You don't even know what I am." "I know enough," he said. "You're someone who pretends to be cold, but you're not." Her expression softened slightly, but only for a heartbeat. "You talk too much." "Then stop me," he said, half teasing. Saris sighed and looked up at the glowing structure. "This is the Heart Nexus. It feeds the city. It connects every Xylan mind, every energy stream. If you touch it, you'll die. Have you ever touched it?" he asked. "No," she admitted. "We don't need to. It's part of us already." Draven looked at it, fascinated. "It's beautiful." "It's dangerous," she corrected. He smiled faintly. "So are you." Before she could reply, the hum of the Nexus grew louder. A surge of blue light rippled across the floor. Saris froze. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "What's happening?" She turned sharply. "The Nexus is reacting. Someone's interfering." Draven saw shadows approaching. 3 tall Xylan guards, their eyes glowing bright crimson. They moved in silence, their presence heavy. "Saris of the 9th line," one of them said coldly. "You have been observed communicating privately with the human envoy." "Explain yourself." Saris stepped forward calmly. "It was necessary for the negotiations." "Lies," the guard said. "Your energy signature fluctuated during the exchange. You made physical contact with him." The air grew cold. Saris didn't answer. Draven understood what was happening. They were accusing her of breaking their code. He stepped beside her. "If you have a problem, take it up with me," he said firmly. The guard looked at him with disdain. "You are not authorized to speak. Humans forget their place." "Maybe," Draven said, his tone steady. "But we also don't let others take the blame for us." The guards moved closer, but Saris raised her hand. "Enough, he's under my protection." Her voice carried power, soft but commanding. The guards hesitated, exchanging uncertain glances. Finally, the leader said, "Very well, but you will both answer to the council tomorrow." As they left, Saris exhaled slowly. "You just made everything worse." Draven smirked. "You're welcome." She almost smiled. "You're impossible." They stood in silence, the blue light of the Nexus washing over them. For the first time, Draven saw something in her eyes that wasn't anger or fear. It was something fragile, something she tried to hide. "Why did you protect me?" he asked softly. "Because," she said after a pause, "if they harmed you, it would mean admitting they fear humans, and the council does not like fear." "That's not the only reason," he said. She looked away. "Maybe not." When they finally left the Nexus, dawn was breaking. The city glowed gold under the rising light. As they walked, Saris spoke again, her voice quiet. "Tomorrow the council will question us. If they decide you are a threat, they will erase your energy signature." "It is painless." Draven stopped walking. "Erase? You mean kill?" She didn't meet his eyes. "Yes," he smiled faintly. "Then I guess I should make a good impression." "You think this is funny?" she asked, almost angry. "No," he said seriously, "but I've never met a challenge I didn't face head-on." Her gaze softened. "You don't understand what they can do." "Then teach me," he said quietly. "Help me understand." She hesitated for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out her hand. If we do this, there's no turning back. He took her hand without hesitation. There never was. A faint glow surrounded their joined hands. The connection from before returned, stronger this time, pulsing through both of them. She gasped softly as her senses flooded with strange warmth. For centuries she had felt only cold energy, precise and perfect. But this was life, raw, wild human life. When the glow faded, she looked at him in disbelief. "What are you?" "Human," he said simply. "Just human." She shook her head. "No human energy feels like this." "Maybe it's not the energy," he said. "Maybe it's the choice." Before she could reply, a sharp vibration filled the air. The Nexus lights flickered in the distance. Saris turned toward it, alarmed. "They're watching us." "The Council knows." Draven didn't move. "Then we better give them something worth watching." She looked at him, this strange human who smiled in the face of danger, who touched what others feared, who refused to bow. And for the first time in her long life, she didn't feel like a Xylan counselor or an energy being. She felt alive. As the first rays of sunlight struck the towers of Virelion, Saris whispered, "You've changed something." "Dravencole, I don't know what it is, but it's already begun." He smiled faintly. "Then let's see where it leads." Far above them, unseen by human eyes, the Council gathered. They had witnessed everything. The forbidden touch, the surge of mixed energy, the glow that wasn't supposed to exist. And among them, whispers began to spread. One word echoed through the chamber of minds. Human. The next day began with silence. A silence heavier than any sound Dravencole had ever known. The Hall of Harmony, once filled with soft music and light, now felt cold and distant. The air itself seemed to vibrate with unseen tension. Draven stood between two tall Xylan guards as the massive doors opened. Inside, 12 members of the Council sat in a perfect circle, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Each one radiated power. Their energy shimmered faintly in the air like heat rising from metal. At the center stood Saris. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched at her sides. "Dravencole," said the first counselor, his voice deep and echoing, "you have been brought here to explain your actions on our world. You have violated our sacred customs and interfered with one of our kind." Draven didn't flinch. "I didn't mean to offend anyone. I only did what humans do, reach out." "Reach out?" Another counselor said sharply. "Your contact with Saris of the Ninth Line triggered an anomaly in the Nexus. It responded to your presence. No human has ever done that." Draven looked around the circle. "Maybe it's because no human ever tried." A low murmur ran through the chamber. The counselors exchanged glances. The first counselor's tone hardened. "You speak as if ignorance is courage." Draven smiled faintly. "Sometimes it is." Saris stepped forward suddenly. "Enough. If you want to blame someone, blame me. I allowed the contact. I didn't stop him when I could have." The first counselor turned to her. "You would claim responsibility for this." "Yes," she said firmly. "I will not let him suffer for my choice." Draven shook his head. "It wasn't just your choice. It was ours." For a moment, the entire chamber fell silent. The Council seemed confused by the simplicity of his words. The idea of sharing blame or sharing anything emotional was alien to them. The Xylan prided themselves on logic, not empathy. But humans were different. The first counselor stood. His voice grew colder. "This connection between you two is unnatural. The Nexus recorded a resonance pattern between your energies, something that should not exist." The human's life force did not drain when touched. Instead it merged, Saris spoke quietly. "It's never happened before. And it must never happen again," the counselor said sharply. "The human will be removed from this world. His essence will be studied and then erased." The words hit like a hammer, but Draven's face remained calm. He glanced at Saris, who looked horrified. "No," she said. "That's not justice." "It is necessary," the counselor replied. "If humans can resist the drain, they may become a danger to us all. We cannot allow such instability." Draven took a step forward. "Instability? You call it that because you don't understand it. But maybe you should. You've built a perfect world, yes, but it's lifeless. You've forgotten what it means to feel." The guards moved closer, but Saris raised her hand. Energy rippled from her body, stopping them. The air crackled as she turned toward the Council. "You can't erase him. If you do, you erase something greater. Something that could unite our kinds instead of dividing them." The first counselor's voice boomed. "You are blinded by emotion." "Maybe," she said. "But emotion is what makes him strong." "What makes humans strong?" Draven stepped beside her. "You want to understand why humanity survived the darkness of space? It's not because we're powerful or perfect. It's because we care. We fight, we protect, we connect. Even when it hurts. Even when it kills us." The chamber trembled faintly. The energy fields around the council began to react, unstable, uncertain. The nexus far below the city pulsed with light as if echoing his words. "Enough," the counselor thundered. "You will be detained immediately." Before anyone could move, the floor shook violently. Alarms rang through the chamber. Blue light poured from the ceiling, swirling like a storm. Cirrus looked upward in shock. The nexus. It's reacting again. Draven felt it before she spoke, a deep pull inside his chest like something calling to him. The same energy that had sparked when he first touched Cirrus now surged through him stronger than ever. He stumbled, gripping his chest, but the pain was mixed with power. Cirrus grabbed his arm. "You have to stop. You're sinking with it." "I'm not doing anything," he gasped. "It's calling me." All around them, the council members tried to contain the surge, their glowing hands raised, but the nexus energy resisted. Streams of blue light connected the chamber to the city core. Draven's body glowed faintly, his heartbeat echoing like thunder through the room. Cirrus could see it now. The human's energy wasn't chaotic at all. It was alive, raw, and self-sustaining. It didn't drain, it shared. It spread warmth instead of taking it, and somehow it was affecting the nexus itself. The first counselor shouted over the roar. "Separate them, now!" Guards rushed forward, but as one touched Draven, he was thrown backward by a burst of light. The chamber filled with an electric hum. Draven looked at Cirrus, his eyes bright. "It's connecting us, all of us. What do you mean?" She shouted. "The nexus, it's linking human emotion with your energy field. It's feeling." Cirrus realized he was right. Through the connection, she could sense not only Draven's mind but also the faint echoes of others. Curiosity, fear, hope, rippling through the entire Xylan network. For the first time in their history, the collective mind of her people was touched by emotion. The light grew brighter, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. When the glow faded, the chamber was quiet again. The nexus pulse had calmed, but the city outside shimmered with a new kind of light. Softer, warmer. Draven stood weakly, breathing hard. Cirrus supported him, her touch steady. Around them, the council members looked shaken. Their eyes no longer glowed red, but faintly golden. "What have you done?" whispered the first counselor. Draven smiled tiredly. "Maybe I reminded you what it means to be alive." The council was silent for a long time. Then slowly one of them spoke. "We felt it, a warmth, a pulse that did not belong to the nexus." Cirrus nodded. It belonged to him, to humanity. The first counselor sat back, uncertain for the first time. "Your kind is dangerous," Draven laughed softly. "So are you. That's why we might actually get along." The tension in the room began to ease. The guards lowered their weapons. The council members looked at one another, silently communicating. Finally, the first counselor said, "The human will not be harmed, but he must leave Virelion. The nexus has changed. We must understand what happened." Cirrus turned to Draven. "They're letting you go." He nodded, though he didn't seem happy. "And what about you?" She hesitated. "I must stay. The council will need guidance. They've seen too much to ignore it now." Draven studied her face. "You'll be alone," she smiled faintly. "Not anymore. You left something behind in the nexus. It's alive inside all of us now." He reached for her hand and she didn't pull away. Their fingers met one last time, the same spark of connection flaring between them. But this time it didn't burn or drain. It simply felt human. "I'll come back," he said quietly. "You always say that," she whispered, "and I always mean it." Outside, the human shuttle waited at the edge of the city. As Draven boarded, he looked back one final time. The towers of Virelion gleamed under the rising sun, and at their heart, the nexus glowed a gentle gold instead of blue. Cirrus watched from the balcony, the light touching her skin. She could still feel his presence faintly. Warm, human, endless. The change had already begun. Days later, deep within the nexus core, energy patterns continued to evolve. The Xylan scientists called it an anomaly, but Cirrus knew better. It was something new, something born from the meeting of two worlds. Humanity had touched the untouchable, not with weapons or conquest, but with courage and connection. And far across the stars, aboard his returning ship, Travancore sat quietly, watching the stars drift past. He smiled to himself, remembering her words, her warning, her voice. "Touch me again and I'll drain your blood." He chuckled softly. "You tried," he whispered, "but instead you changed everything." In that moment, humanity's legend grew a little brighter in the endless dark. One act of fearless touch echoing through the stars, reminding the universe that humans didn't just survive, they connected,